The message came in the form of a trembling frequency, barely decipherable through the static of deep space interference. It wasn't the language that made the transmission unsettling. It was the fear. Not coded fear, not metaphorical dread, but real, raw panic embedded in every spike of the waveform. The alien voice at the other end was desperate, broken, and above all, terrified. Do not engage the species called humans. They are not what you think. They are chaos with a heartbeat. If you value your worlds, your stars, your legacy, turn back. Turn back while you still have the skies under your control. High Lord Catal of the Varex Empire heard the warning in the central command chamber of the dreadnought Skarak's Wrath. The transmission had been intercepted from an unknown source, somewhere near the outer reaches of what humans called the Kuiper Belt. He scoffed, 4 golden eyes narrowing with amusement. "Fear propaganda," he said coldly, his voice echoing through the chamber of his war council. "Cowards often leave breadcrumbs for the brave to ignore. Let us not insult our empire by flinching before savages." Around him, battle commanders nodded, slamming fists to chests in unity. The Varex Empire spanned 97 systems and had never lost a war. They'd conquered planets with beings who bent time, tamed suns, and crafted living weapons. Humans were a Category 4 species, primitive, emotionally unstable, war-ridden, and scattered across one small blue planet. Yet there was something odd about their history. The AI analyzers found it puzzling that humans had never achieved galactic peace, and yet they hadn't collapsed. In fact, the more they fought among themselves, the more they advanced. Their planet, Earth, had gone from stone tools to interplanetary probes in just a few thousand solar cycles, an evolutionary sprint by galactic standards. But High Lord Catal was not concerned. The Empire had subjugated worse threats. As the war fleet of over 1,000 ships began its voyage toward Sol's system, a small scout vessel, unofficial and unauthorized, landed near the rings of Saturn. Its crew, mostly scientific observers, were curious rather than hostile. They sent drones, watched signals, and tapped into human internet streams. At first they laughed at what they saw, humans dancing, singing, arguing about the color of a dress. But then they saw wars. Endless wars. Not like the calculated conquests of the Varex, but brutal, emotional, senseless wars. Wars driven by pride, revenge, survival, religion, money, and sometimes just the need to prove they could win. Civilizations had fallen and risen again. Empires had burned, and yet humans thrived. Then the observers made a fatal mistake. They abducted a squad of retired soldiers from Earth, thinking to study them. What they didn't know was that these retired warriors were all veterans of different conflicts: Afghanistan, Iraq, Korea, Somalia, and a few black ops missions buried too deep to name. The abducted humans awoke in a containment chamber, under sedation. Yet one of them, a man known only as Ridge, fought through the drugs. He killed 2 guards with his bare hands. The scientists were horrified. They tried to sedate him again, but he used one of their fallen weapons, figured it out in minutes, and shot his way through half the corridor before being gassed unconscious. When the data reached High Lord Catal, he ignored it. "An isolated incident," he declared. "Humans are nothing more than clever apes." But behind the scenes, murmurs grew louder. A second warning message was found, this time from a former Glishan general who had fought the humans during a rogue asteroid mining dispute. "They are not advanced. They are not united, but gods help us all. They do not know when to stop fighting." The fleet entered Mars orbit exactly 72 hours later. And Earth didn't fire a single shot. Not yet. Because Earth was watching. Earth was waiting. The Varex fleet had never approached a system so quietly. Their ships were black as night, shaped like massive serpents with armor that shimmered in and out of phase with space itself. 1,000 warships hovered in orbit around Mars, perfectly aligned like a predatory halo. From a distance, it looked like a god's spear aimed directly at Earth. And yet, Earth made no move. There were no planetary defense signals, no orbital fighters scrambling, no space warnings. Just silence. And satellites. Hundreds of them. Most were simple, dated constructs from Earth's older tech eras. Weather systems, GPS units, defunct telecom links. The Varex AI had already scanned and labeled most of them primitive debris. High Lord Catal stood at the observation deck of the Skarak's Wrath, with his arms folded behind his back, golden armor glinting under the light of Sul. His eyes fixed on the Earth, blue, green, and alive. He sneered at its beauty. "Do they not even know we are here?" he asked. Behind him, Commander Varesh, a tall, lean officer with scales as white as ash, cleared his throat. "My lord, it is possible they do not possess the technology to detect us in stealth mode." Catal turned slowly. "And if they do and they simply do not care?" Varesh frowned. "That would be most unusual. Even the Grithorians fired a volley when we entered their star space." Catal said nothing. His instincts were uneasy, but he crushed them down. Fear was a disease among commanders. The Empire didn't build its legacy on hesitation. Meanwhile, deep inside the Earth's military networks, alerts were lighting up like fireworks. Earth had seen them. In a subterranean base buried beneath Colorado, known unofficially as Site 9, General Marissa Crow stood before a large holographic model of the solar system. Her salt-and-pepper hair was tied back in a tight braid, and her face was as hard as the granite walls that surrounded them. "All ships have entered Mars' orbit," she said grimly. "Estimated firepower equivalent to 10,000 modern nuclear payloads." Beside her stood Dr. Tenma Liu, a physicist turned defense technologist. He pointed at the model with a shaking hand. "If they attack now, we won't stop them. Our defense grid is a joke compared to that." Marissa didn't blink. "Which is why we don't defend, Doctor. We respond. Prepare Protocol Helios." Tenma's face went pale. "You're activating Helios?" Marissa nodded. "That's right. Every retired Black-class operative, every asset, every dormant AI cell, and bring Ridge out of containment." Tenma tried to argue. "He's unstable. What if he goes rogue again?" Marissa turned, eyes burning. "Then we pray he goes rogue in the right direction." Above, in orbit, the Varex fleet began deploying probes into Earth's upper atmosphere. The probes weren't armed. They were for psychological warfare. Each drone carried a short, repeating broadcast message in over 300 languages, synthesized from intercepted human transmissions. "You are now subjects of the Varex Empire. Resistance is futile. Your leaders will surrender. Compliance will ensure survival." They floated across every nation, blinking lights in the sky like slow-falling meteors. Humanity stared up, confused at first, then deeply unsettled, but not terrified. Instead of panic, Earth reacted with something stranger: unity. For the first time in generations, major powers activated a dormant global protocol. Project Skyfall. Troops were mobilized, subs raised from oceans, satellites switched from civilian to military channels, all while civilian life tried to pretend everything was normal. Concerts were still held. Children still played in parks. Memes flooded the internet. One went viral. A Varex soldier with the caption, "Bro came to Earth thinking it's Star Trek. It's doom." Back aboard Skarak's Wrath, High Lord Catal found himself watching human social channels. "These images," he muttered. "Why are they laughing?" Varesh leaned forward. Perhaps they do not understand our presence. But another voice, raspier and lower, cut in. It was Sub-Lord Kren, commander of PsyOps, and one of the few Vareks who studied enemy culture. No, he said slowly, eyes glowing blue from neuroimplants. They understand, but humans do not react to fear the way others do. It becomes humor. It is their way of coping. Coping with what? With war, with death, with extinction. Catal clenched his jaw. So they laugh before they die. Kren turned his gaze to Earth. Or before we do. 2 days passed. No human leader surrendered. No human responded to the broadcast. The Vareks took this as defiance. On day 3, the Empire struck. A single precision blast was aimed at an uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean. The message was clear. We can destroy anything at will. The island vanished in a plume of molten glass and steam. Still, Earth did not reply. But within hours, something started happening. One by one, the Vareks ships began experiencing strange malfunctions. Not major systems, yet, but small, critical bugs. Navigation error, communications glitch, security breach in a food dispenser, a fighter drone launched early, a databank went blank. Catal demanded answers. Is it sabotage? Impossible, the engineers replied. They've not touched us. But someone had. On the 4th day, the Vareks dreadnought Vakar's Flame vanished from sensors. Just gone. Search fleets combed the orbital zone. No explosion, no escape pod, no distress signal. A ghost ship, swallowed by nothing. And then, a message came through to the Scarix Wrath's bridge. It was a voice, human, male, calm, grizzled. Nice ship you got there, it said, crackling. Shame if someone figured out how to park it in a black hole. Catal's blood ran cold. Who is this? He demanded. But there was no reply, just static. And laughter. They traced the signal. Barely. It had bounced off over 4,000 nodes, some of them Earth's own satellites. Others were old Varex probes from past conquests. Then they found the source. Ridge, or as the humans called him in the darker files, the Reaper of Lagos, a man with over 130 confirmed kills. Disappeared 10 years ago after going rogue in a war zone. Declared dead. He wasn't dead. He was just waiting for the right war. Back on Earth, Site 9 was a flurry of activity. Ridge stood in the center of a reinforced war chamber, armored in something Earth had never made publicly. A fusion of exosuit and alien tech scavenged from past classified encounters. His eyes were cold steel. How many ships? He asked Marissa. About 980 remain. We took one offline. Another lost control for 15 minutes. We're guessing they've noticed. He nodded. Good. Let 'em notice. Fear's a better weapon than any missile. Tenma looked at him warily. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Ridge cracked a smile. I've been waiting for something worth killing. Above Earth, panic had started brewing inside the Varex command. More ships reported anomalies. One cruiser had its oxygen replaced with nitrogen. Another launched all its escape pods without warning. A third received false orders to open fire on its fleet mates. Then came the videos. Every Varex ship began receiving hacked transmissions. Footage from Earth's history, Hiroshima, Vietnam, Fall of Berlin. September 11th. Mass shootings, drone strikes, but also something else, resilience. Humans rising from rubble, helping each other, smiling while bloodied, fighting, always fighting. And a final message. We don't lose because we're the strongest. We win because we don't stop. Catal ordered a full lockdown. No transmissions, no external data, no AI systems to connect with Earth. Too late. Ridge was already inside. You brought 1,000 ships, his voice echoed through the walls of every vessel. We only needed one of you to slip up. One by one, the ships began to go dark. Some exploded from within, others lost power and drifted into Mars' gravity well. A destroyer turned on its mothership. And all the while, Earth just watched. A storm was unraveling across the stars, and it wasn't made of missiles or lasers. It was chaos, pure and methodical, the kind that humans were frighteningly good at unleashing. The Varex fleet had been the jewel of the Empire's dominance, sleek, efficient, brutal. Now it was unraveling like a serpent eating itself. Ship after ship lost control, internal sensors failed, orders were overwritten by ghost signals. Some Varex soldiers reported hallucinations, others swore they saw their shipmates turning on them. Morale was plummeting. What was once a mighty armada was becoming a fleet of isolated, panicked death traps. High Lord Catal stood on the war bridge of Skarak's wrath, teeth grinding against each other. The red emergency lights pulsed like a heartbeat gone wrong. "Explain," he barked. "Why are the crews disobeying orders? Who is controlling our systems?" "Unknown, High Lord," Varesh stammered, his eyes wide. "It's not coming from Earth's mainframe. Whatever is affecting us, it's already inside." Catal turned to Sublord Kren, who looked paler than before. "You said humans were emotional, weak, unpredictable." "I was wrong," Kren muttered. "I didn't realize they would use their unpredictability as a weapon. They're jamming our own systems with emotional garbage, songs, stories, images, nonsense." "And it's working," Kren whispered. "They're using information the way we use plasma cannons. They're infecting us with their madness." The flagship shook violently. Sirens wailed. A crew member slammed into a panel and screamed in pain. Catal stormed towards the central control chair. "Deploy shock units. Send ground troops to Earth's surface. Burn a city if you have to. Let them feel what war truly is." "Which city, High Lord?" Catal hesitated. "Any." But even as he spoke, another update pinged on the screen. The destroyer Grash Tool, second in command of the assault force, was breaking formation. Not drifting, not damaged, but retreating. Engines blazing full speed toward the edge of the solar system. "What is that ship doing?" Catal yelled. "They've withdrawn, High Lord," Varesh said. "Commander Zaal sent a final message. He said, and I quote, 'We picked the wrong species.'" Catal's fury exploded. He grabbed a plasma rifle from the nearby wall and fired it straight into the tactical map display, shattering it into molten shards. "Cowards! I'll burn Earth down myself." Back on Earth, General Marissa Crow stood before a massive underground monitor inside Site 9, hands behind her back. The faces of world leaders flickered in real time across the secure global communications array. The President of the United States, the Premier of China, the High Commander of the EU coalition, even the underground governments of rogue states, all eyes were on her. "We have them panicked," Marissa stated calmly. "But panic is not victory. It's the moment before." A Russian general leaned forward. "What are you suggesting?" "We send a message," she replied. "One they'll never forget." The room was silent. Then, slowly, a French delegate asked, "Are you suggesting a nuclear strike?" Marissa smiled grimly. "Number that would make us like them. I'm suggesting we scare them more than any explosion could." "Operation Mirror Maze," she added, turning to her aides. Ridge, standing off to the side, nodded. "About time." Within minutes, Earth's space agencies, all of them, shifted their satellites. Communications went dark in some zones, flared in others. Old defunct space probes powered up. SpaceX satellites blinked with a pattern that, to human eyes, looked like flickering lights. To the Varex, it looked like code, a countdown. And then something impossible happened. The Skarak's Wrath's nav AI picked up a new object approaching Mars orbit. A ship. Not human, Not Varex. No known design pattern. Catal stared at it with disbelief. Is this some alien interference? No, High Lord, the analyst choked. It's one of ours, but it doesn't exist in our registry. The ship was black, sleek, angular. Its Varex design was unmistakable, yet different, more elegant, more terrifying, and it was moving fast. Before the crew could react, it transmitted a simple message in perfect Varex dialect. This is the ghost of your arrogance. Then the vessel vanished, not cloaked, but simply disappeared from existence, blinking out of every scanner, radar, and sensory field. A complete technological vanishing act. Panic spread like wildfire through the fleet. Soldiers began reporting whispers inside their helmets. Some screamed that Earth had hacked their suits. Others accused the leadership of betrayal. Then came the internal sabotage. Ships began self-destructing, not from external attack, but from soldiers turning on their officers. Entire bridge crews executed. A ship called the Drasun sent a desperate message. They've turned our own minds against us. Down on Earth, Ridge sat at a dimly lit terminal, watching the chaos unfold on dozens of screens. His face didn't show satisfaction, just grim focus. A junior officer approached. Sir, why didn't we just fire missiles or orbital weapons? Ridge didn't take his eyes off the screen. Because missiles end battles, he said. But fear ends empires. The Varex fleet was in shambles now. Nearly 200 ships had been destroyed, disabled, or deserted. Dozens had turned their weapons inward. Hundreds of soldiers had committed ritual withdrawal. Varex tradition when defeat was certain. High Lord Catal, realizing the war was lost before it had even begun, stood alone in the darkened command chamber of Scarex's wrath. The chamber flickered with sparks. Consoles smoked. His once pristine armor was dented, stained with coolant and blood. His face twitched with disbelief. This cannot be, he whispered. A sound echoed in the silence. Footsteps, impossible. No one should have been able to board the Scarex's wrath, not without being vaporized. The door hissed open. A silhouette stood there, human, broad-shouldered, armor black as night, Ridge. He stepped into the chamber like a ghost stepping into a legend. You wanted a war, Ridge said. Welcome to the part where we finish it. Catal snarled, drawing his blade, a glowing staff of radiant blue plasma. You're one man. And you're one empire, Ridge replied. Let's see who dies louder. The battle that followed wouldn't be recorded in any Varex archive. Not because it wasn't legendary, but because there were none left to record it. An hour later, the Scarex's wrath began descending from Mars' orbit in a controlled spiral, its engines dead, but its course steady. It entered Earth's atmosphere like a falling god. Nations below stared up in awe as the burning monolith streaked across the sky, then gently plunged into the Pacific Ocean with a thunderous hiss. All global channels lit up with one final image, just before the ship vanished beneath the waves. It was Ridge, standing in the shattered bridge of the ship, helmet off, eyes glaring into the transmission. His message? This is Earth. Don't ever come back. The waters of the Pacific sizzled for hours after the Scarex's wrath vanished beneath them, swallowed by the sea like some alien offering to Earth's oldest gods. Rescue satellites tracked the descent but found no wreckage, just rising heat plumes and a metallic silence that pressed into every sonar buoy like a warning. The Varex fleet? Gone. Some destroyed by their own soldiers, others disabled by invisible invasions of code and fear. The rest? Fled. And yet Earth didn't cheer. There was no victory parade, no massive press release, just an eerie quiet, like humanity itself had grown more aware of what it had become. what it had shown the stars. Inside Site 9, the underground command center hummed with post-conflict analysis. Screens displayed debris scans, intercepted alien transmissions, and countless logs of erratic Varex behavior in the final hours of the invasion. But none of that mattered now. Not to General Marissa Crow. She stood near a reinforced viewing platform, watching the live satellite footage of the ocean's surface slowly calming. Behind her, Ridge limped into the room. His armor hissed as it disengaged its seals. Blood stained his undersuit, some of it red, some of it an alien green. His face was scratched but calm, like a man who'd just finished mowing his lawn. Except his lawn had been an empire. "You all right?" Marissa asked without turning. "Yeah," Ridge grunted. "Ship was empty by the time I made it to the reactor core. Whatever was left of Katal, he wasn't in the mood for talking." Marissa finally turned. "Did you kill him?" "Not directly. He tried to override the ship's core systems. I let him, but I gave him just enough rope to choke on his pride." She exhaled. "That's the last one, then. The last threat on the battlefield." "For now," Ridge said. They stood in silence. Finally, she asked the question that had haunted her since this began. "Do you think they'll come back?" He didn't answer right away. He walked to the nearest terminal, tapped a few commands, and brought up an intercepted message from the outer edge of the solar system, a broken signal, fragmented words in Varex tongue. "Broadcast repeating every 6 hours," he said. "Translated, it says, 'We should have listened. Do not follow us. Earth is cursed.'" He turned to her, jaw clenched. "So no, I don't think they'll come back. Not soon, anyway. They didn't just lose ships. They lost belief. In themselves." She nodded slowly. "Then we've won." "No," he said quietly. "We've survived." News of the invasion never reached the general population in full detail. The governments released vague statements, something about an orbital event, a meteor shower, and an international defense test. Most of the world moved on. The internet chewed up conspiracy theories and spat out memes within days. Humanity did what it always did when it faced the incomprehensible. It laughed and forgot. But not everyone forgot. Some people remembered the power flickers, the strange buzzing in their ears when they passed cell towers, the way birds scattered in perfect formation as if sensing a predator in orbit. Others remembered the feeling, that deep, primal wrongness, as if something had looked down on Earth and judged it, and some dreamed of Ridge. They didn't know his name, but they saw him. In flashes, in sleep, a man in black armor surrounded by fire and broken stars. In the dreams, he never spoke, but they felt his warning deep in their bones. On the far side of the moon, hidden beneath a layer of reflective shielding, a black site called Echelon Echo came to life. It had been built for one purpose: observation. Not of Earth, but of space, a sentinel watching for threats. Inside, Dr. Tenma Liu worked feverishly. He stood over a long, curved table littered with Varex tech. Shattered control panels, alien interface chips, pieces of memory cores. But in the center of the room sat the real prize, the neural core of the Skarax Wrath, retrieved by deep-sea drones before the wreckage drifted into the trench. "You're really going to try and talk to it?" his assistant asked. Tenma glanced at her. "Not talk. Listen. This core might contain thousands of years of Varex data. Military, historical, cultural. We could learn everything." The assistant hesitated. "And if it's infected?" "You saw what happened up there." "I did," Tenma said softly. "Which is exactly why we need to understand it. You don't survive the next war by being surprised." He activated the core. It pulsed once, then again. Slowly, like a heart made of crystal and electricity. A voice crackled from it, not in words but in thoughts. It projected a memory, a recording, the final moments of Catal. He stood in the shattered bridge of the Wrath, alone, injured, confused. The humans, Catal muttered to himself. They were supposed to be simple, primitive. But they are madness. They are storm-wrapped in skin. They do not think like us. They do not surrender. Even in silence, they fight. Even in defeat, they win. He reached for the controls with shaking claws. They are not the enemy, he said, before his voice broke into a whisper. They are the test. Then static. Tenma stepped back, shaken. The test? He repeated aloud. And then he remembered something Ridge had said, days ago. Fear ends empires. Somewhere, far from Earth, across the dark curve of the galaxy, another species intercepted the fleeing Varek's distress signals. Tall, luminous beings of crystalline structure gathered in silence. They had observed the rise of empires before, seen them burn and collapse under their own weight. But this was different. One of them, a being known only as Silk of Echoes, whispered through their collective consciousness. Humanity has awakened. Another responded, They are dangerous. They are necessary, Silk replied. The galaxy has grown, complacent. Civilizations bask in comfort. Fear is the great sculptor. Should we prepare for war? No, Silk said. We prepare for arrival. Not to conquer, not to destroy, but to witness. The others shimmered with unease. They will not welcome us. No, Silk agreed. They will test us, as they tested the Varex. Back on Earth, Ridge walked the abandoned corridors of Site 9, past decommissioned war machines and old training simulators. He wasn't supposed to be there anymore. The officials had offered him a hero's farewell, medals, and a clean retirement. He turned it all down. He didn't fight for glory. He fought because he knew what was coming long before anyone else did. And it wasn't over. He found himself in the simulation room, staring at an old training display of the solar system. You think they're really gone? A voice asked behind him. Marissa. I think they're hiding, Ridge replied. She walked beside him. And if another fleet comes, we'll break that one too. She laughed softly. You make it sound easy. It's not. It's necessary. He paused. You know what scared them the most? What? It wasn't the weapons, or the tech. It was us. What we do when we have nothing left. How we keep going even when we're broken. Marissa nodded. That's our curse, he finished, and our power. From the stars above, Earth looked the same as it always had. Blue, bright, full of noise and movement. But to those who now knew better, Earth wasn't just a planet. It was a warning, a test, a forge. And anyone who dared to challenge it had to ask themselves the one question that echoed across the void. Are you ready to bleed for underestimating them? The deserts of Nevada were quiet again. But beneath them, in an unmarked bunker miles below ground, something stirred that would change the fate of Earth forever. Site 12 was never on any map, not even among the classified military bases the public occasionally whispered about. It wasn't controlled by any one nation. It was owned by the idea that Earth had become too dangerous to leave unprotected. Inside, a council met in a circular room called the Vault. 12 individuals from 12 corners of the world. Some generals, some scientists, some shadows so deep not even other intelligence agencies knew their names. At the center of the table, a hologram flickered to life. It showed a Varex neural schematic, partially translated, with thousands of lines of code scrolling across it. One man leaned forward. His name was Director Holden. He'd been with the Deep Systems Directorate since before the first moon landing. The Varex weren't just soldiers, he began. They were data carriers. This neural core ridge helped us recover. It's not just a brain, it's a map. To what? Asked the woman from the Chinese Cyber Warfare Division. Halden smiled grimly. To other civilizations, other conquests, other failures. The Varex didn't just document their victories, they stored everything, especially what scared them. Another member of the council, a slender man with Nordic features and a voice like frost, tapped his finger against the console. So Earth is now in possession of interstellar intelligence? No, Halden said. Earth is now in possession of reputation. The table went quiet. He continued. Our planet is now a known factor, a wild card. The Varex Empire wasn't just defeated, they were shattered. Their warnings are echoing through galactic communication networks. And unlike us, most alien species don't separate myth from fact. The story is already out there. He paused. Earth is no longer the backwater planet. We're the monsters they tell their children about. Ridge didn't know about the vault. He didn't need to. He could feel it. That subtle shift in the air. The way every government's posture had changed. The paranoia. He was walking the coast near Astoria, Oregon, wearing civilian clothes now. A black hoodie, boots still laced like a soldier, and a phone that never rang. People passed him on the boardwalk, smiling or ignoring him. None knew who he was, but he kept his eyes on the horizon. It wasn't Earth he was worried about. Not anymore. It was what was coming next. Thousands of light years away, a transmission reached a council of a very different kind. On a world orbiting the dying star of Vanthex 9, an assembly of elder species, known collectively as the Writhe, gathered to review the Varex collapse. Their forms were not consistent. Some were liquid, others gaseous. One was a cloud of digital minds hosted in a drifting ice comet. But all agreed on one thing. Humanity wasn't supposed to win. One member, designated Tholn, spoke first. The Varex were tested for resilience. They conquered 100 systems and never faltered. They faltered at Earth, another replied. Not from power, Tholn insisted. From fear, from infiltration, from cultural infection. The humans didn't just fight back. They rewrote the rules of engagement. A third, older entity, its voice like tectonic plates grinding, rumbled. They are chaos, the variables in every equation. You cannot dominate what you cannot predict. Then we must decide, Tholn said. Do we contain them, or engage? Silence fell. Then came a whisper from the void speaker, an ancient artificial mind said to predate the galaxy's spiral. Neither, it said. We must invite them. Shock rippled through the assembly. Invite? Tholn asked. You would welcome the very species that turned an empire to ash? They passed the first test, the void speaker replied. The test of irrelevance. Now we must see if they survive the test of influence. Back on Earth, strange anomalies began occurring. First, a deep space probe near Jupiter sent back images of a structure. Something massive, artificial, and half buried in Europa's ice. Next, a quantum research facility in Siberia reported time dilation events. Small pockets where clocks ran slower, then faster, then reversed for precisely 2.4 seconds. Then, a message arrived. Not in language, in numbers, pure prime sequences embedded in a signal beam aimed precisely at Earth's axis of rotation. It contained three things: coordinates, a countdown, and a symbol. The symbol was ancient, simple, a circle with a jagged line cutting through it. Ridge recognized it instantly. He saw it once, etched into a wall inside the Varex dreadnought, next to a message scratched in desperation. If you see this mark, run. Within 48 hours, the site of the transmission's arrival became known: the Atacama Desert, Chile. A task force was formed. Ridge was pulled back in. "You're supposed to be retired," Marissa said when he walked into the hangar. "I don't retire," he said. "I just reload." She handed him a dossier. "Whatever sent that signal, it's coming in 12 hours. We're sending a delegation, not a fleet. They asked for humans. They know who we are now." "Exactly. That's what scares me." The shuttle landed at 3:12 in the flat expanse of the desert. Ridge stepped out with 4 others, scientists, linguists, and one pale man from the vault who never gave his name. They waited. And at 3:14, the sky tore open. Not with noise, not with light, but with pressure, like the fabric of the universe had been stretched and pinched into a slit. From it, something emerged. Not a ship, a platform. It floated circular and black, with a surface that bent reflections. Upon it stood a single figure, tall, wrapped in layers of what looked like smoke and glass, its face hidden behind a veil of shimmering static. No weapons, no guards. It stepped forward and spoke, not aloud, but directly into their minds. "I am the one you call Silk of Echoes." Ridge blinked. "You're from the Writhe." "Yes, and you are from the Flame." It was not a question. "I have come not to conquer," Silk continued, "but to offer a trial." "A challenge?" Ridge asked. "A chance," Silk corrected. "For Earth to take its place, not beneath but beside. You frightened the Variks. You broke their will. You stand at the edge of becoming something more." Ridge didn't respond. "You don't trust us," Silk noted. "No," Ridge said, "and we don't want your seat at the table." "Then take the table," Silk said. "Flip it, burn it, rebuild it. That is what makes your kind terrifying. That is why we're offering this instead of invasion." "What's the trial?" Ridge asked. Silk raised a hand. The ground beneath Ridge's feet shimmered. From it rose another Ridge, not a clone, not a hologram, but something real, breathing, watching him with his own eyes. "This is your enemy," Silk said, "the part of you that cannot change. If you kill it, you lead Earth's first contact council. If it kills you, Earth sleeps another 1,000 years." No more words. Ridge stepped forward. So did the other him. And then they fought. They circled each other in silence. 2 Ridges, identical in every way. Same cold eyes, same scars, same steady way of walking like the ground owed them answers. Yet somehow the air felt different around the other one. He wasn't breathing heavy. He wasn't blinking. There was no emotion behind his stare. The original Ridge cracked his neck. "So, you're the part of me that can't change." The double smirked. "Number, I'm the part of you that won't." And then he lunged. Ridge barely ducked in time as a fist swept over his head. The ground shook beneath them when the impact landed, a crater forming in the desert sand. Ridge backpedaled, kicked up dust, and retaliated with a brutal elbow, which the double blocked like he was made of steel. Every move felt like fighting a mirror that didn't lag. Punch, counter, block, step back. Every motion anticipated, mirrored, punished. Ridge had fought elite soldiers, aliens with triple-jointed limbs, and even an AI-augmented cyborg once during a Black Ops skirmish in Mongolia. None of them had made him sweat like this. His double wasn't just stronger, he was ruthless. "You're hesitating," the copy growled, sweeping Ridge's legs and driving him into the sand. "That's your problem. You still believe in lines." Ridge grunted and rolled away, narrowly avoiding a knee meant to crush his skull. "And you don't believe in anything." The other Ridge stood tall, dust swirling around him. "That's why I survived." "No," Ridge said, standing slowly. "That's why you died inside." They clashed again, bare fists and heavy boots thudding into ribs and jaws. Blood spilled, but it was impossible to tell who bled first. Around them, The humans, Marissa, Tenma, the others, watched in stunned silence. Silk of Echoes didn't speak. The platform it floated on shimmered with anticipation. Marissa leaned toward Tenma. "What the hell is the point of this?" Tenma whispered. "It's symbolic. The alien's testing whether humanity follows its worst instincts, or defeats them." "You mean if Ridge can kill his own darkness? Or if his darkness kills him?" Ridge staggered back after a brutal hit to the side of his skull. His vision blurred. His nose was broken, his lip split. The double didn't slow down. He was coming, calm and mechanical. "This is what made you strong," the double hissed. "You buried empathy. You crushed mercy. You did what no one else could. You survived everything." Ridge spat blood and grinned. "You call that strength? I call that fear." The double snarled and lunged again. But this time, Ridge didn't dodge. He let the blow connect, took it full force, and stepped in. In that split second, he wrapped his arms around the double's waist and drove him into the sand, slamming a boot down on his chest. "Pain made me strong," Ridge said, breathing hard. "But pain without purpose is just noise." The double tried to rise, but Ridge brought his heel down on his throat, pinning him. "I remember every kill," he muttered. "Every face, even the ones I tried to forget. You think you're the real me because you don't feel? You're just what I left behind to survive the war. But now the war's changed, and I didn't die. You did." The double's eyes flashed, then slowly dulled. The body dissolved into dust, like ash blown from a fire long past. The platform above shimmered. Silk of Echoes descended slowly, head bowed. "It is done," the alien said softly. Ridge stood, wiping blood from his mouth. "What was that thing?" "A reflection," Silk replied. "The galaxy is filled with conquerors, but conquerors become predictable. You are something different. Your species is changing, but only if you choose to leave the worst parts behind." Ridge didn't answer. "You passed," Silk continued. "You chose not the path of purity, but of balance. You are rage and mercy, fire and rain." Marissa stepped forward. "So what now?" Silk turned toward her. "Now? Earth is no longer under observation. It is invited." Tenma blinked. "Invited to what?" "To join the Accord," Silk said. "A coalition of advanced species, not ruled by one empire but bound by one law, that no species may rise to power without proving it can survive itself." "And we passed?" Marissa asked. Silk's voice darkened. "Number you barely passed. You've scorched half your own history in war, poisoned skies, built bombs to erase yourselves. You are infants with blades." He turned back to Ridge. "But infants who survived fire." Within a week, Earth changed. It didn't happen in fireworks or mass celebrations. There were no glowing alien cities or shiny new spaceships parked on the White House lawn. Instead, a signal was sent. Not to the public. To Earth's best. The brightest minds in quantum fields, interdimensional theory, subspace mechanics. From villages, labs, hidden bunkers. They were invited, quietly, discreetly, to prepare. A single term was given to them. Initiative Prometheus. Ridge returned to the coast. The fighting was done for now. But the next phase was worse. Not war, politics, human nature. He stood on the edge of a cliff, wind pulling at his jacket, eyes on the stars. Marissa found him there. "You know they'll want you to lead the delegation," she said. "I'm not a diplomat." "You're exactly what they need. You're what scared the Varex. You're what impressed the Writhe." Ridge didn't reply. "I watched you fight yourself," she added. "Most people would have lost that battle." "I did," he said. She frowned. "What do you mean?" "I'll always be both," he muttered. "The killer and the protector. There's no separating it. I didn't win, I accepted it." Marissa nodded. "Maybe that's the real victory." He turned to her. If we go out there, into the galaxy, what happens when someone stronger comes? We fight, she said. And if we lose? She smiled grimly. Then we'll do what humans always do. Get back up, and make damn sure they remember the cost. He looked back to the stars. Above Earth, the first gateway opened. A ring of dark light suspended over Antarctica. Massive, silent, waiting. And beyond it? Not safety. Opportunity. Danger. A galaxy that had just realized Earth existed and would never, ever forget. The Antarctic sky burned like dawn frozen in place. The ring hung in the air, dark at the edges, a shifting vortex of indigo and red in the center. No hum, no roar, just silence. A silence so vast it pressed against the minds of everyone watching. The gateway had opened. Across the planet, governments mobilized. Civilian eyes were locked to screens as shaky footage streamed in. Black helicopters circling the phenomenon, shuttles launching from Arctic bases, snow kicking up in whirlwinds beneath fusion-powered engines. The world wasn't panicking. It was waiting. At Site 12, Ridge stood in a reinforced chamber surrounded by figures who didn't wear insignias. They didn't introduce themselves. They didn't speak unless necessary. He knew who they were anyway, each one a hammer in the quiet toolbox of global survival. Director Halden stepped forward and placed a thick black case on the table. We've confirmed the coordinates beyond the gate lead to what Silk of Echoes called the Celestial Chamber, a hub, neutral ground, a testing station for new entrants into the Accord. Ridge nodded, already armored. Threat level? Halden tilted his head. Technologically superior, yes, but they follow strict laws of engagement. Psychological manipulation, cultural observation, trials. Ridge frowned. They want diplomacy. They want evaluation, Halden corrected. They want to see if we belong, and whether we're a threat. He opened the case. Inside was a sleek obsidian pistol with lines of alien code etched into the barrel. What's this? Insurance, Halden said. Fires once. Can disintegrate a tank. Don't use it unless the trial turns into a trap. Ridge took the weapon and holstered it without a word. Marissa entered behind him, suited up in a more traditional exosuit, a high-ranking Earth liaison. You really going through with this? She asked. He didn't turn. You trust someone else to do it? No, she admitted. But they picked you for a reason. Ridge strapped on his final piece of armor and turned. Let's find out what the galaxy's really made of. The launch bay near the gateway was a flurry of white suits, snow vehicles, and VTOL ships. Ridge and his team, 5 members, each chosen for a reason, boarded a sleek shuttle with no markings. It wasn't designed for war, just survival. Dr. Tenma Liu sat beside Ridge, nervously checking his data pads. This place we're going, it could be centuries ahead of us, he murmured. Then don't try to be smarter, Ridge replied. Just listen. They lifted off, snow parting in waves beneath the ship. The ring grew larger in the cockpit window, until it wasn't a shape anymore. It was a sky of its own. And then, with a gentle hum, they passed through. There was no jolt, no sound, just suddenness. One moment, Antarctica. The next, stars. The shuttle was drifting above a colossal space station. Not built like human constructs. This was more organic, like bone wrapped in obsidian, with glowing tendrils branching out into orbit. Energy pulsed along its surface like a heartbeat. Jesus, Tenma whispered. This isn't a station, it's alive. A voice filled the cockpit. Welcome to the Celestial Chamber. Identity, Ridge Calder. Earth designation, humanity. Ridge frowned. How the hell do they know my name? You are the story that shattered the Varex, the voice replied. All species know your name. The ship moved on its own now, guided by unseen forces, drawn toward a docking platform lit with blue fire. Inside the station, gravity took hold gently. The team disembarked into a chamber lined with towering figures, representatives of the Accord. Dozens of species stood in silence, watching. Some hovered, some pulsed with light. One didn't have a body, just a shifting fog inside a crystal sphere. Silk of Echoes stepped forward. You arrive bearing no fleet, no anthem, just breath and bone. Ridge nodded. That's how we started. Might as well be honest. Silk gestured to a raised platform at the center of the chamber. This is the weighing table. It does not judge through conversation, but memory, history, pain. You will be tested not through words, but by what you are. Ridge looked at his team. You ready for this? Marissa gave a tight nod. As will ever be. One by one, they stepped onto the platform. And the world changed. The chamber vanished. Ridge opened his eyes and stood on a battlefield. But not just any battlefield, Baghdad. 2005. Smoke, sand, screaming. He was back in his past. Except this time, he wasn't alone. Around him, figures from the Accord stood in translucent forms, watching, silent. A younger version of Ridge knelt beside a boy, no older than 10, shrapnel in the child's stomach, crying for his father. "Save him!" a woman screamed in Arabic. Young Ridge hesitated. His orders were clear. Pull out. Secure the intel. No engagement. But he didn't follow them. He dropped his rifle, picked up the boy, and ran. Gunfire rained around him. The aliens watched in silence. The memory ended. Now Ridge stood in a different place. A prison in Ukraine. 2013. He was interrogating a black market AI smuggler. No witnesses. The man begged, offered bribes. Ridge put 2 bullets in his chest. No regret. No hesitation. The aliens didn't speak. They simply observed. It went on. Memory after memory. Saving lives, ending others, mercy, violence, betrayal, loyalty. Ridge relived his worst days and best moments, naked before the galaxy. Finally, the light faded. He stood again in the celestial chamber, sweating, shaking. Tenma was pale. Marissa's eyes were wet. Others couldn't even stand. Silk of Echoes turned to the Accord. A voice, different from Silk's, echoed across the chamber. Humanity is blood and fire, greed and growth, passion and plague. But they are not hollow. They have not surrendered to despair. They carry memory, not just of victory, but of guilt. Another voice added. They are dangerous. A third replied. They are necessary. Silk stepped forward. You are not pure. You are not peaceful, but you are honest. You pass. Ridge exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. What does that mean? It means Earth is no longer alone. A panel opened behind Silk, revealing a map of the galaxy, 1,000 systems, trade routes, diplomatic lines, open threats, hidden dangers. You are invited to walk among us, not as children, not as enemies, but as equals. Tenma whispered. We just entered galactic civilization? No, Ridge muttered. We just walked into the deep end. As Earth prepared for its first official delegation to the stars, Ridge returned to the shuttle. Marissa sat beside him, eyes distant. We passed, she said. Ridge nodded. That was the easy part. She raised an eyebrow. Easy? We passed because we were honest, he said. But now, they'll expect us to stay that way. And we won't? He looked at her, expression unreadable. We're human, he said. We don't stay anything for long. The stars outside shimmered like coins on black velvet. And for the first time in history, Earth was invited to the table. But no one at that table knew. When the humans sat down, they'd be reaching for the knives. 3 months after Earth joined the Accord, the world was no longer the same. Skyscrapers in Beijing shimmered with anti-gravity tech. Markets in Lagos were trading in interstellar alloys. In New York, alien diplomats walked among humans, wrapped in light-filtering suits and silent curiosity. A fleet of orbital satellites, powered by borrowed tech from a species that lived in dark matter currents, now surrounded the Earth like a new age halo. And yet, for all the technology and treaties, something darker grew underneath. Because not everyone welcomed the stars. In the ruins of a decommissioned Arctic submarine base, men and women in stolen uniforms gathered around a device glowing with stolen power. A former intelligence officer named Kendrick stood at the helm. He'd once served Earth. Now he served a purer vision, one that feared what humanity was becoming. "They've poisoned us," he spat. "Turned our world into a playground for alien ideologies. We were conquerors. Now we're their pet project." Someone beside him adjusted a control dial on the core. The device, known as the Null Pulse, was built from parts smuggled from crashed Varex ships. It was illegal even by Accord standards. It could wipe a city's electrical signature off the map in one burst. But Kendrick didn't want to use it on a city. He wanted to use it on them. Site 12 was flooded with alerts. Director Halden watched red lights blink across his secure console. Marissa Crow burst into the command center, face grim. "Someone just activated a fusion pulse relay from outside Nook," she snapped. "Unauthorized, hidden frequency. We tracked the energy buildup. It matches Varex origin." "Who has Varex tech?" Halden growled. "Anyone who pulled wreckage before we cleaned it. Mercs, Black Ops, maybe even someone on the inside." Halden's eyes narrowed. "Who would attack us now?" She didn't answer, because they both already knew. Ridge was aboard the ESS Horizon, Earth's first deep space diplomatic ship, in orbit above Jupiter's moon Callisto. The vessel wasn't a warship on the outside. Inside, it was rigged with fail-safes, AI contingencies, and weapons capable of punching through cruisers twice its size. He was staring out at Jupiter's massive eye when the call came through. Marissa's voice. "Get back." That's all she said. No explanation. Just 2 words. He didn't argue. Back on Earth, the Null Pulse was primed. Kendrick stood before it, eyes wide. "Let them see," he whispered. "Let them remember fear." He pushed the trigger. The pulse screamed into existence. A dome of energy erupted from the core, a blinding cascade of light that shredded comms, sensors, satellites, and more dangerously, every single Accord-linked system in the region. Above the planet, ships blinked off. In orbit, the Accord's monitoring beacon collapsed into radio silence, and for 12 minutes, Earth vanished from the galactic grid. In the celestial chamber, alarms rang. Silk of Echoes watched as projections of Earth flickered. "Signal blackout," another envoy said. "Localized EMP from stolen Accord tech." "Was it internal?" asked the crystalline being from the Thal-Rune Confederacy. "Yes," Silk said, voice heavy. "Human origin, no alien fingerprints." "Is this their betrayal?" Silk paused. "No," he said. "This is their truth." On Earth, panic erupted. Flights dropped, communications shattered, medical systems failed, but humans adapted like they always did. Firemen ran without radios. Old diesel trucks replaced drones. Handwritten notes moved faster than satellites. In chaos, they found rhythm. Marissa activated the internal reserves of Site 12. Generators roared to life. "Where's the strike zone?" she asked. An aide replied, "Greenland. We've got confirmation. Former Earth defense operatives. Rogue faction." "Status?" "They're still active, preparing a second pulse." She nodded grimly. "Not if Ridge gets there first." The ESS Horizon dropped from orbit like a spear. It entered Earth's upper atmosphere with precision only an AI-enhanced flight system could provide. Within minutes, a drop pod deployed, hurtling across the polar skies before slamming into snow near the target zone. Ridge climbed out, half covered in frost, already moving before the air cleared. He didn't bring backup. He was the backup. The base was dark, powered by its own insulated core. Ridge moved through the tunnels like smoke, killing lights, disrupting cameras. The guards were trained, former soldiers like him, but none of them were him. He reached the main chamber in under 7 minutes. Kendrick stood at the core, arms folded, flanked by 2 remaining guards. "Never thought they'd send you," Kendrick said. "Figured you'd be off kissing alien boots." Ridge didn't respond, just kept walking. "You don't even ask why," Kendrick called. "Don't want to hear the truth?" "I already know it," Ridge said. "You were afraid. Afraid Earth wasn't at the top anymore." "We were supposed to conquer the stars," Kendrick snarled, "not beg them for permission." Ridge stopped 10 feet away. "You think we begged? We made the stars bleed before they even said hello." He drew the weapon Halden had given him. 1 shot. Kendrick smirked. "You going to kill me for patriotism?" "No," Ridge said, "for cowardice." He pulled the trigger. The core exploded behind Kendrick, imploding into a vortex of unstable energy. The shockwave threw Ridge back. The walls collapsed. The chamber filled with white noise. But the pulse didn't fire again. When Ridge woke up, he was in a medical wing beneath Site 12. Marissa sat nearby, her uniform covered in soot. "You stopped it," she said. "The station's fried, but we contained the blast." He sat up slowly. "They'll use this," he said. She nodded. "Already are. Half the Accord is calling for oversight. Some even want to pull us out." "And Silk?" "He stood up for us. Said this wasn't Earth's betrayal. Said it was our test." Ridge exhaled. "Funny how every time we get tested, it looks a lot like suicide." Marissa smiled. "But we survive." Weeks passed. The Accord reviewed Earth's status. They demanded safeguards, oversight, technological audits. Earth agreed to all of it, on paper. But beneath the surface, Earth was doing what it did best. Preparing. Ridge was debriefed, decorated, and once again offered retirement. He refused. "Let the diplomat speak," he said. "I'll handle what happens when talking stops." He was transferred to a new vessel, ESS Revenant, a ship not built for diplomacy, but deterrence. Its hull was layered in adaptive plating, its weapons were experimental, and it carried 1 crew. Him. Somewhere far from Earth, in a distant system untouched by the Accord, a species watched Earth's rise with burning eyes. They called themselves the Drakkan. Silent, ancient predators who saw the Accord as a sickness. And Earth? Earth was the infection's spark. "The humans must be erased," one of them hissed. "They poison the balance. Even chaos has its place, but they are something worse." Another nodded. "They survive everything, but they have not yet faced us." Back on Earth, Ridge stood alone on the deck of the Revenant, staring at the stars. Marissa's voice came through his comms. "You're leaving again?" He nodded. "Just a patrol, watching the borders." "Of Earth?" He shook his head. "Of everything." A pause. "Ridge, what do we do when something worse than the Varex comes?" He didn't hesitate. "Same thing we always do." He turned his gaze upward, where 1,000,000 eyes watched Earth with awe, envy, and fear. "We make 'em regret finding us,"